This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to the Theta Phi Alpha Officer Portal training for our Alumni Association presidents. We'll be doing a quick overview of the new Officer Portal, going over how to claim your account and log in, how to change and update your roster of officers, how to submit your bylaws, how to submit your annual report, and also going into a few more details about setting your dues payments and assigning dues payments to individual members and filtering through your member roster. To get started, you'll want to type in the officers.thetaphialpha.org website address into your internet browser to bring you to the login page. Now, this officer portal was launched originally in 2017 for our collegiate officers. Down below is a list of all of the collegiate officers that are allowed access to the officer portal. They have a more extensive list of officers that enter the portal just because they have a more extensive list of reports that need to be filed each year. For the purposes of the Alumni Associations, the officer portal is currently only available to Alumni Association presidents because there's a very small list of reports to be submitted, and the presidents are the only ones that need to manage this. To get started, you're going to want to enter your username and password. Now, if you've already visited the Theta Phi Alpha member portal at my.thetaphialpha.org, and if you're already assigned as the current Alumni Association president, your member portal username and password will work to get you access into the officer portal. So you can start by entering your username and password that you've already established through the member portal and use that to log in here. However, if you've never visited the member portal, then you'll want to go ahead and click this link to claim your portal account. You'll be prompted to answer a few quick questions. Very simple, but keep in mind that these answers must match exactly how we have you listed in our member database. Oftentimes, we might be missing your date of birth from your member profile in our database. If that happens and you continue through these prompts, you may get an error message saying that your request for an account can't be validated. If that's the case, send us a quick email. We will sort out the birth date issue or find where the inconsistencies are between your account claim and your profile in our database, and we'll make that fix real quickly. Just send us an email to technology@thetaphialpha.org. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be using fellow staff member Candace Bender's portal account, since she also is acting as a current Alumni Association president for the Flint area. Her profile will give you a more accurate view of what you'll be seeing when you log into your accounts. The very first thing you'll be prompted to choose is the office that you'd like to act as when you're entering the officer portal. Most of you will only have one option to act as the AA president. Candace has a few more options because of her staff role. However, for most of you, you just want to be concerned with clicking on this AA president role, since you want to make sure you're seeing all of the reports that an association president should be seeing. And click on this. The portal does need to think for a little bit, usually at this step. Once you enter, you'll see your name at the upper left, your officer role, and the association region that you're tied to. You'll also see our main navigational icons on the left side of the portal and some helpful links on the top right. You won't see as many as Candace has here, but you will have this quick link to the member portal, a help link, and log out. This introductory window that you're brought to is the calendar. This is more useful for our collegiate officers who have sometimes dozens of reports to complete throughout the year. They can view this in a monthly view to plan for their upcoming deadlines a little better. For the purposes of our Alumni Association, since you have so few deadlines to worry about, you're not going to make that much use of the calendar. But if you go to August, you will see the upcoming deadline, which we recently moved to August 15th for your Alumni Association annual report. So this is kind of your landing page. You'll also see, because you can't miss it, this red banner at the very top of the officer portal. This will remind you if you're past due on any reports. It gives you a quick link to jump to that frame to tell you exactly what you're past due on and maybe give you a little nudge to tell you what to focus on first. Candace is new to her role, so she does have a report that's past due since she hasn't even had a chance to get started yet here. You'll see it's highlighted in red that she's past due on the Compass report for her association. So back to the home screen. Just want to point out that red banner. The red banner will not be there if you're current with everything, but it will pop up as a reminder to just offer up that quick link to your reports page if you're behind on a particular report. So again, our icons, main navigational tools, calendar, your listing of reports, your alumni member roster, your officer roster, and your chapter settings. Those are the key icons that you're going to be concerned with using in the officer portal. The first thing we're actually going to do is click on the officers icon, because this should be one of the first steps you do when you log into the officer portal. Most of you won't have too many officers filled in your officer roster, so it'll be up to you to add those names into this roster. For instance, for Flint area, Candace could come in and select the AA secretary, and you would click this edit icon button here. You'll be prompted to select the replace this office holder with a new office holder link. And then you can begin the search for the appropriate person that you want to fill in that role. It will do a search. There we go, that's better. And then you can select that person. This is just a sample, so we're not going to do that right now, but just as a reminder to please complete your officer roster. You'll be able to use this as a quick guide, useful contact information right at your fingertips if you have this filled in. We'd also encourage you, as a part of your transition when you're changing association presidents, to before you leave your position, be sure to update any other additional incoming officers that need to be changed in the portal before you turn over your portal access to the next association president. That just gives them a better running start to work with, and so that when they log in, the new slate of officers is already in here and ready to go. The next thing we're going to go over are the reports and bylaws that you'll be using this tool to submit. When you click on the Reports tab, you'll see two sections of reports: reports that are due or coming due, and reports that may be completed at any time. The Alumni Association bylaws submission is a report that can be submitted at any time throughout the year. We're going to go over this real quick. You'll see you'll be prompted to upload some files, fill out necessary contact information, a summary of changes, and then most importantly, you'll be clicking this button to save this form and submit. Now, this bylaw submission does not have an option to save this form and come back to it later to make any changes. So when you're working on submitting your bylaws, you'll want to make sure they're in their final state, that they're ready to go. You're not expecting any more edits or additions. So when you upload these, you're saving it and you're submitting it, and it's already going into queue to be reviewed. Now let's go back to our Reports tab. We're going to click on an example of a report that's due or coming due. Click on the Alumni Association Annual Report. This is similar information that has been asked previously. Very basic form, nothing fancy. But the one nice difference about this report is that you'll have the option to save this form and complete later. That was not an option with the bylaws. So if you have an event throughout the year, maybe a philanthropy event, it might be useful for you to come in and describe that event and fill out that portion of this report immediately following that event. So you don't have to worry about hunting down that information months later. And then later on in the year, you can fill out any support for the foundation that you planned. And you can continue to add information to this report throughout the year. And once you're good and you're approaching that deadline, you're ready to go, at that time you can save the form and submit it for good. And again, similar to the bylaw submission, once you save the form and hit that final submit, you're not going to have the chance to make any edits. It will be into the queue for review and saved to your association's permanent files. Next thing we're going to quickly go over is your roster. This alumni members icon pulls up the roster of alumni members in your geographic area. So for the Flint area, we show 487 members. This is certainly not the number of members who are paid members of your local association. This is purely all of the alumni members pulled in from your geographic region. So this can be useful if you want to reach out to all those alumni in that region, that larger group. You can download those names to an Excel doc. You can send a batch email to the entire list of people. Click on this to show you. By completing these fields, the subject and the body of your text, you will then send an email to that entire list of 400 and plus members. You can also download mailing labels and a PDF directory report, which can be a useful resource to share with other members. Most often, you're not going to want to work from this entire broader list. You're going to want to drill down to filter this list out and pull up more of the active members or the paid members of your specific association. So you can use this filter tool to search specifically for a member that you're looking for within your association. To just do a quick grab, you can pull up Michelle Porter's profile here. By clicking on the hand icon, you can see the entire profile. You could perhaps, if you're not sure of a specific spelling, maybe type in the letter P with an asterisk, which will pull up any last name that just begins with a P, and you'll get the entire listing of members in your geographic area with the last name that starts with P. You can search by birth date, telephone, all these different prompts. One thing that is going to be most useful is to search by their dues. You can search by previously paid or current paid member. However, in order to do that, you're going to have to add those dues payments to the individual profiles. So to get started with that, we're going to go back a step and set your chapter or your association's dues settings. By clicking on chapter settings here, the very first tab that pops up is dues settings. Now I just roughly filled these in as a possible example. Every association is going to have different levels for dues, but these are just to show you an example that you can establish different dues levels, different amounts. You always want to designate the year that you're working with. You can even designate a level that's going to be $0. So you'll designate those different levels, you'll save the dues, and then you'll go back to your roster to begin pulling up names and adding in those dues payments to the individual member names. So for instance, if we know that Candace recently paid her dues, we're going to pull up Candace's profile. Candace Bender right here. We're going to select her profile to edit. We will go down to her alumni dues information. Actually, we're going to, click here first, dues payments. We're going to add a dues payment because we just received a check from her. Add her to our general alumni category, we received a check for $20, for instance, and then you have to designate a paid through date. This is going to be different possibly for every association. We'll just designate this as December 31st. Save, return to her profile. And now when you look at her personal information, we'll see that she is a dues payer. Right here with the green designation. So I've done that for a few members within this association just to use as an example. So I'm going to show you when we filter this list now, since I've followed those same steps for a few of the Flint area alumni, I'm going to do a search for paid members. When I do a search, I find 4 paid members within the Flint Area Association. So these are all people that I've gone into their individual member profiles and I've added that dues payment in that second tab, and I've selected those appropriate options. You can also add a dues payment for a previous year if you've established that in the chapter settings. So you may want to go back and use this as a tool to record previous year's payments, because that might help you filter out your larger list better. So again, these are the 4 members that I've now been able to filter. So you'll want to use some of these dues designations to help you filter through the larger list of alumni in the geographic area. And that way, when you have this smaller list, for example, here, the 4 members, you can then send a batch email just to that smaller listing of people. So you can prepare, your monthly newsletter or any kind of communications that you'd like to share with your paid dues members within the association. You could also print the directory report of that smaller group of alumni members and share that with the group. So those are just some of the key settings. We will consider creating some videos down the road for some of these more advanced settings. And we'll take some feedback on that if you'd like to learn more about these. But basically these other settings, committee assignments, events, it's just a way to track who has attended certain events or who's working on different committees, who's interested in learning about different areas of involvement within the Alumni Association. So those are features that we can begin implementing and share more information with you if you're interested. Feel free to certainly navigate through these. You can begin using these tools right away if you'd like to. Practice adding a new event and then adding people's attendance to those events within those member profiles, similar to the way you establish the dues. But in a later video, we can drill down into this information a little bit better. But we hope that this is enough to get you started in submitting your reports and managing your list of officers and association members for you. Again, if you have any questions at all, send us an email, technology@theta-phi alpha.org, and we'll be glad to help you out.